What is going on, guys? Got another breakdown for UFC Vegas 47. This one's on the prelims at light heavyweight. We got Jailton Almeida making his UFC debut against Danilo Marques. Almeida listed reach advantage of an inch and a half, and Marquez listed as 3 inches taller. But I will start with Almeida. Coming off a very impressive performance on the Contender Series, which I'll be real, that was like the only fight I was able to find in full from Almeida. I looked around, I found some competitive grappling, but with that said, um, I think he looked very impressive in that fight against a guy who had good grappling himself. He is 9-0, and Almeida just had very good takedowns, variety of takedowns. Had a really nice trip, really nice body lock where he only had one hook in, and when he was troubled, Nasruddinov was never able to posture up, do really any damage, and Almeida was always just he had control of something like an arm, whatever, and he was able to escape out and get the fight back where he wanted it. And then in round two, the way he got the submission, very patient, took his time, got the body lock, just worked it in for like a minute. Had that Python mode going, which I always like to see. You know, some submission artists panic or they just they empty the tank looking to get it. Almeida, very measured and sets it up well. But like I said, I've never had so much trouble finding tape on a guy, man. You can usually find something. You know, there's websites. There's you go on Google Translate, and I get it in Portuguese, and I look it up, and I can't find shit. But I did find some competitive grappling and whatnot. A lot of it's in the gi, but he has very, very good track record with these competitive grappling tournaments. Like we see this one last year. He fought 4 times in a day, got the submission every time, got the submission win over Cal Baralho, who is now with the UFC, was on the Contender Series last year. So yeah, the resume is good here. He's got first round submission wins over UFC veterans, granted aging ones, but everything that I've seen from Almeida points to this guy just being one of those grapplers where there's levels to it, and Almeida's grappling is on a different level. Striking wise, you know, it's hard to say what we got. He's not a striker. Neither is Marquez, though. And I think that Almeida is just a little bit more mobile. And I don't anticipate this fight staying on the feet. Sometimes when you get two grapplers, it tends to stay on the feet. But I think that Almeida is going to be able to work the takedowns here against Marquez. And yeah, not like a ton to go off on the feet, but he is mobile. He's just a good athlete all around for this division. And yeah, I just think that we can maybe give Almeida the striking edge, just because there's not a whole lot to Marquez's striking game. But for Danilo Marquez, 2-1 in the UFC, last lost to Kennedy and Zechiku in a fight where he controlled much of the first round in the backpack, had a good second round too, was threatening submission but was never able to get it. Pretty good submission defense from Zechiku. It's kind of why I was high on him. But yeah, he gasses out in that one, gets knocked out in the third. Uh, and it kind of shows a little bit of what I dislike about Marquez's game. He's kind of one of these guys that just racks up control, doesn't always get the submission. I mean, sometimes he does against lesser grapplers like Mike Rodriguez, who has cardio issues, not the best grappler, was able to get submitted against Marquez. Kadis Ibragimov wins a decision there, but Ibragimov went 0-4 in the UFC. So there's not a whole lot to go off of. When Marquez can impose his wrestling and BJJ, he's pretty good, mostly BJJ. But cardio, I worry about. He looked really tired in that Kennedy fight. He's looked tired in multiple fights. Not a whole lot of output, not a ton of ground and pound. And we go back to last week, like Islam Mamedov against Benson Henderson. I picked Mamedov by points, but I said it, man. He could let the rounds get away from him just with top control. Not a lot of offense. You do that, it's not a good recipe. So I worry about Marquez in that aspect. If the fight is low output, I think that he could be in trouble just because Almeida's got a little bit better cardio and maybe a little bit better striking. And I think he's got better jiu-jitsu. But that is really what this fight comes down to, you know. You got a huge price tag on Almeida, minus 470 on FanDuel. A little bit better money line, but still outside the range that I like to deal with at minus 410 on DK. But if I'm gonna bet this fight, I think Jailton Almeida by submission at plus 100 um, is pretty good. I'm glad it has plus odds. I thought it'd be one of those minus 120 props, but what I will say about method props sometimes is when they are like closer to even money, that means that the bookmakers are very, very sure of the outcome. Like if it's not plus odds, then like they're extremely sure. I mean, you do see some of these props at like minus 200 sometimes if it's a total mismatch, but a lot of times even when you see a prop that is a very likely outcome, it's still like minus 130. So plus 100 is in that bookmakers are pretty confident that he's going to get the submission um, range, but at the same time, I just worry that this could be like a low output fight, and Marquez has just good enough grappling to survive. He has never been submitted in an MMA fight. He has done some competitive grappling too, to varying degrees of success. I mean, he did lose in submission underground, uh, in his last appearance. Almeida has a pretty good track record in these grappling tournaments. I mean, it is in the gi a lot of it, but he does have the track record. And I just worry that it could be like one of those stalemate, low output fights where Almeida just does a little bit more and he ends up getting the decision win. But from what I've seen with Almeida's takedown ability and his cardio, I think those two things are going to really present the submission in like the second or third round. And yeah, I just like Almeida's ability to impose this fight the way he wants to a lot better than Marquez. He can get better. He's better at getting takedowns. I think he's just physically stronger and he's got better cardio. All of that leads to a recipe where I agree that Almeida should be a big favorite, but money line it's worthless, especially because Almeida is still kind of an unknown. I think he's proven. I think that this is one of those fights too where they're trying to get him rolling. Uh, Start him off against Marquez. But I mean, I don't know. I hate to get too crazy with that. Like sometimes you can see it. Like a couple weeks ago, Pete Rodriguez, they just brought him in to get KO'd by Jack Della Maddalena. So Jack Della Maddalena gets a nice KO on his record to start in the UFC. They do that shit. You gotta think about when they want to build a guy up. I mean, I hate to get too crazy with it, like I said, because you start making that read all the time, and it's not true. It's not like all this shit is fixed, but I do think that they are giving Almeida a winnable matchup here, and I like his. He's just better at the things Marquez does, and he has these attributes like physical strength and cardio that I think are going to work to his advantage. So I don't see Marquez being able to submit Almeida. I think that it really is just going to come down to whose grappling is better, and I am going to probably take a stab on Almeida by submission at plus 100. But yeah, it's got to be proper bust. So thanks for watching, guys. Sure to subscribe and take it easy.